Live from the Orion Cygnus arm of the Milky Way galaxy, this is Scientifically Speaking, a weekly half-hour program devoted to elegant curiosities, and I am one of your hosts, Sarah Chang, and joining me as always is Bernie Rhyme, TJ Starwatcher. How are you, Bernie?
Yes, hi Sarah, very good, thank you.
Bernie is our professor of the astronomy lab at USM and our local protector of the night skies. Reach out to us at WMPG Scientifically Speaking at gmail.com or on Twitter at WMPG Head to WMPG.org to find the last 5 weeks of archives of all of your favorite shows, including this one. Bernie, could you let our listeners know what is up in the night sky for this coming week?
Yes, certainly. So this will be Friday, May 21st. So it'll be a waning crescent moon, basically almost a new moon. It'll be just 2% lit. It'll be coming up just before the sun. So the new moon will be on the 22nd. So the moon won't be in the way. And we still have 2 evening planets. We can still see Mars. Still sets about midnight. It's moving about a constellation eastward every month. And then you'll see Venus also in the evening sky. And then if you like to get up early, you'll see Jupiter and Saturn in the morning sky. And there's no meteor showers till the end of June. We had one about 3 weeks ago caused by Halley's Comet called the Eta Aquariids. So hopefully we're able to see a few of them. And so that's basically it. Not a lot of interesting things coming up this week, but all the weeks are different.
Good to note.
Right, yes,
Every day is different.
Different.
And if you couldn't take notes fast enough, you can also check out the monthly What's Up column in the Portland Press Herald. Thanks, Bernie.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Today's show, we welcome Keith Launchbury back. He was our first guest of 2021, talking about supply chain logistics with the coronavirus pandemic. And we had him back here today to continue our conversation on the circular economy and product life cycles and how that looks in either the linear economy and the circular economy. So hopefully what you'll take from this is a call to action to make every day Earth Day. Enjoy.
The Oyster Award. You ever heard of that?
No.
It's an award. It's a sort of tongue-in-cheek. It's a bit like the Razzies instead of the Oscars. This is the award for the worst packaging in the world, and they've given it many years to different companies. But one of them that keeps winning this award is Mattel. Mattel with their Barbie doll. If you've ever purchased a Barbie doll for Christmas for your daughter, then your daughter is very anxious to have her Barbie doll so she can play with it. But it will take you on average 15 minutes to get the Barbie doll out of the package. Because you need special tools. You need like the scissors that you use to cut that plastic. You need like a box cutter to get in there. You have to untangle her hair from the backboard that it's glued to. And there are twist ties on everything behind her to keep her in place when she's standing on the shelf. But your daughter doesn't care. She just wants to play with her Barbie doll. So it's called the Oyster Award. And there are many, many examples of things that fall into that category of having the worst packaging in the world.
There's this book called Why Do We Shrink Wrap Cucumbers? I don't know if you've ever heard of that one. I've actually never read it. It's been on my list of like books that I wanted to purchase just because there was a time when I was studying all about packaging, and that was a book that had shown up, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. What is that?
This is a novel about
All Systems Down.
Yeah. It's about climate change. It's about the ice in Greenland and Antarctica melting into the ocean. You know, we've had 6 inches of ocean rise in the last 50 years, and they project in the next 20 years it will be another 6 inches. So that's significant. It's affecting coastal communities everywhere. So I wrote a book about it. It's a novel. It's a post-apocalyptic global survival novel.
My favorite
all
kind.
Systems are down. Now,
a lot of them out now. Yeah, I read it. It was good, Keith. Yeah.
You've read it, right, Bernie?
Yeah, I read it,
Yeah. If you think about this, Sarah, okay, what is the main supply chain on the east coast of the United States.
Wait, I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, Interstate 95.
Yes,
That takes a lot of the transport
I
of
see.
product
Okay.
up
Yep.
and down the east coast of America.
Hmm.
Where are all the power stations? They're all located next to I-95, which is the first road that's going to get flooded in Florida, in Boston, everywhere is going to be I-95. What happens to our transportation system when I-95 is underwater and the power stations are shut down?
Yeah.
We've got no supply chain. We've got no food. You know, it took them in Texas only 3 days to run out of food in the grocery stores when they had the ice storm.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what we're dealing with. When all systems go down, we don't have food, we don't have electricity, we go right back to the caveman age, and it's survival of the fittest. Whoever's got the most tries to keep it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the book is about. How do you survive in a world like that? And you
Yeah,
cannot survive in a country where everybody has guns, because they're the ones who are going to be taking stuff from the people who've got stuff. So you want to get out of any country that's got guns. You don't want to be around any population people. So you want to be escaping somewhere else. And that's what the book is about. How do you escape, and how do you make your survival plan for your family?
That's we recently had, I think, Bernie's friend Mike Shannon, and we talked about this idea of prosumerism. I don't know if you've heard that term before, but I think the idea is kind of being self-sufficient and finding ways to be self-sufficient. So there were some correlations there, I think.
Definitely.
Yeah, very cool. I feel like I can always learn more about this topic. I was surprised that you were saying I can understand that industry produces a lot of waste, but I also always feel like they are also really good at finding other uses for like byproducts and things like that, which I always find really fascinating.
The problem with industries is there has to be a profit motive.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't get a chance to talk about this, but we're trying to shift industries and companies away from the single bottom line, which is how much money did I make in the last quarter and what is my stock price. That has got to go away, because it leads to short-term thinking, and we need to have a long-term strategy for how we're going to protect this planet, how we're going to deal with the people. We've got a population explosion, 7.7 billion people on this planet. And how do we create enough food to satisfy them without destroying the rainforest and without destroying the oceans, which is what we're doing now? We are putting human life in danger. We've got to stop that. And the only way to do that is to get businesses to think about the triple bottom line, which is people, planet, and profit, in that order. What is it good for people? Is it good for the planet? Is it good for profit? Those three all have to be yes, yes, yes to make it right. And we cannot have businesses extracting, let's say, crude oil from the ground. That crude oil was created millions of years ago. It would take a long time to replenish it. We can't replenish it that quickly. We cannot live in this disposable society where we can continue to consume and with no consequence.
Right.
There are consequences to consumption.
Yeah. How can the circular economy be profitable and revenue generating?
Well, it's simply by saying that we have to pay the true price of what we're doing. And we're not doing that now because we're not figuring in the disposal cost. If I buy a Tesla Model S, and it has a lithium-ion battery that's good for 400,000 miles, but then what do I do with it? When I have to replace that battery, what do I do with the old one? How do I dispose of it? We don't have businesses that are set up to recycle those batteries for us. We must, because we're running out of lithium. You know, we can't produce cars today because we don't have enough integrated circuits, because there aren't enough chips. because people are buying laptops because they want to work at home. So now the car industry can't make cars because they don't have the chips they need to make the cars. This is just going to get worse and worse.
Yeah.
Unless we can think of a way, well, there are 35 million computers thrown away every year in America. Why don't we recycle some of those and refurbish and do the things that you were talking about earlier? Because that is what we need to do, not just throw it away and go buy a new one. We live in a disposable society, and we shouldn't be. Everything has to be disposable, not disposable.
With mass production, we have cheaper products. And for a lot of people, that means better quality of life because we can afford more. But it also means cheaper products.
Yeah, it does. It does. And let me say this. One of the slides I had on my presentation in the year 2000 was in America, we have 4.6% of the world's population, but we consume 33% of the world's resources. China looks at us and says, we want to be just like America. We want to have 5 appliances in our kitchen. We want to have a dishwasher. We want to have a washing machine. We want to have a refrigerator. We want everything that we have in America. We watch all these TV shows and we want to be just like that.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have enough raw material on this planet. China would have 4 times the consumption in the United States, and that would be over 100%. That's just one country.
Mm-hmm.
And you think about India is next in line. They want to be exactly the same. And then Africa want to be the same as India. And the reality is we don't have enough raw materials for that many people to have that kind of lifestyle. America has inequity in terms of wealth distribution. But not only that, America is inequitable compared with the rest of the world. Look at vaccines. Look at how lucky we've been to be able to have 30 million people vaccinated in America, and in places like the Philippines and in Lesotho and countries in suburban Africa, they don't have vaccines yet, and they won't, because there's not a lot of profit in it for the pharmaceutical companies to go there because they can't afford it. And the reality is that they're going to go where people can afford the product.
Mm-hmm.
And that is just wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. I was actually going to ask you about the inequity piece because I think one thing that we think about is, for example, here, everybody has air conditioning, but the places where they are suffering from higher temperatures, they can't necessarily afford it. And, we're making things worse. And
Right. And
yeah.
we are making things worse. We're consuming more energy.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? We could develop products that would work incredibly well in Africa. Let's just take Africa with a lot of sunshine. I could make a solar powered air conditioner. It would be run by solar energy, and it wouldn't consume anything off the grid. And it could be cheap. It could be affordable. They could put them in every hut in Africa. That would be something that would be good for the environment, good for the people, and good for everybody. It's a win-win. But we don't do it because it's not going to be profitable. Those people can't afford it. We're not going to do it. I mean, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was talking actually in South Africa when they had a drought in Cape Town and they were running out of water. Their reservoirs were at 7%. At 7% of a reservoir, all you have is sludge. There is no water left. And that's what they had. And that was a big city with 5 million people running out of water. And they were panicked about it because it was literally a few days before they would run out. Mm-hmm. And I suggested to them that they could implement solar-powered condensers for water. It's called a water cone. That basically you just take seawater, put it into a black plastic tray, evaporate it, and it condenses. You collect the condensed water, and that's drinkable water. It's distilled water. So that would be perfect for Cape Town, for South Africa, but they didn't do it because it was a low-tech solution. It wasn't what they were looking for. They want a desalinization plant with reverse osmosis. They want something that they're going to have to power and be industrial strength. I was looking for a small, independent solution
Right.
that they could have. Every home could have one.
Right. Yeah. Whereas reverse osmosis is a lot of work.
It does, and it
Yeah.
requires a lot of energy and a lot of power to do that. But you don't need any osmosis if you just evaporate the water.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess it just wasn't appealing enough.
It's crazy that people overlook the simple.
Yeah.
They rush to the complex answer because they think it has to be a big. It doesn't have to be a big complex. You could have something very, very simple.
Mm-hmm. Hey, I love low tech solutions. I like the low tech air conditioners. I don't know if you've seen those. It's just like a bunch of little pipes that helps condense the air out. Yeah. Instead of the AC. We have been avoiding ACs. So hopefully this summer won't be too bad. I feel like last summer was a little tough.
Yeah.
Do you feel like people are in industry are no?
I see it less and less.
Oh, really?
That's what I see. I see my grandchildren setting up their own homes and not thinking twice about buying Poland Spring water from a major mega corporation and buying it in a 24 pack and drinking it and then throwing the bottles in the trash because they live in Farmington and there is no recycling in Farmington. So I think that it is crazy. That people are thinking more about the short term, the convenience, than they are about the long term. Luckily, some people are thinking, and my grandson who came over today to help me with some yard work, he brought his water bottle, which he'll take home and refill because it's a refillable water bottle. But so many of his age group are just saying, oh, I'll just drop by the store and I'll just pick up a bottle. It's only $1.
Yeah.
But it's not just the dollar. It's the fact that it's going to live 500 years after you're dead.
Right. No, this is actually a huge point of contention in my household. I think, though, that's the hard part. So we actually talked with Dr. Rob Sanford. He's an environmental professor here at USM a week or two ago. And they had come out with this book on the Presumpscot River. And one of the things that they had talked about was that the Presumpscot River, I don't know if you know the river.
I do.
And how maybe in the 70s it was so polluted that paint was actually stripping off of houses, and like there was like this really bad stench coming from the river. And I think like when you don't see that, when you don't see it as like an issue right in front of your face, it's hard to, I don't know, it's just so out of the way and so like, I don't know. And I feel like with the plastic straws, people saw like one straw in a turtle and they're like, oh my God, let's ban all the straws. Right. And it's like, that's great, but what about everything else?
I grew up in London and I don't know if you saw the actual center of London when you went there, but I thought the buildings in London were black.
Oh.
I thought they'd always been black. Then what happened was I left the country and I saw that the buildings had been cleaned and that they were actually beautiful Cotswold stone that was brown. It was beautiful, but they were black because there was a coal-fired power station in Battersea that was just polluting. And, you know, if you think about Jack the Ripper, you think about the smog that was there in London, and that was all pollution. And we didn't realize until we cleaned up the air that we could actually wash the building and they would stay clean. And if you look at those buildings today, they look beautiful. And that was the way they were built, but that wasn't what happened in the industrial era. We just polluted. And the River Thames was awful. And it took a lot of effort to clean that up because everybody was dumping everything. And I went on a cruise in China up the Yangtze River, and I couldn't believe the junk that was floating around that river, and that they were fishing in that river for our dinner to serve us on the boat. Oh my God, what are we eating? And it's just, that's going to take a long time to clean up. And
Yeah.
I went to see the Three Gorges Dam when they were being built. So that tells you how long ago it was. And they were flooding this whole area where people were living before.
Mm.
They were moving 1 million people up higher on the hill because they would be underwater.
Yeah.
But they were flooding all these things that were pollutants. All these rivers, all these houses had coal fires, and they just covered them all up, and all the industries, they covered it all up with water. And the reality is that's going in the Yangtze River, going down to the ocean and going out into the ocean.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was actually in Myanmar in 2016 or so, and that's where that question of, is it really our fault to, have this linear economy? Because the same thing, you would go, through over a bridge, and that was where people threw their trash, and it would just flow down. And I don't think that they know like what that means. It's just
No.
they just always did it because everything else, like you would think, like your food, you can just throw it out on the ground and it'll decompose, it'll go away. But I don't think it requires education, I think.
Yeah, no, and nobody gives it a second thought. We
Yeah.
went to India about 3 years ago, and I could not believe the level of pollution in India. We arrived at one dock, and they were unloading a container ship with what looked like sulfur. It was yellow, and it was toxic. And they were just taking it out with a steam shovel and putting it on the side of the wharf. And when it rains, that's going to create sulfuric acid.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't want that in the ocean. You don't want that in your environment. You don't want to breathe that. That's toxic in the air. And so they were just doing, there was no protection. They were just doing this. We went on a bus tour, and I had a banana. And I asked the bus driver, what do I do with the banana skin? And he pointed at the ground. He just throw it on the ground because everybody else does.
Yeah.
I mean, the people in India were stopping by the side of the street to relieve themselves in public. I mean, because there are no toilets. I mean, in Mumbai, it's one toilet for 1,000 people.
Mm.
And you think, we can't even get our mind around that. And you talk about inequality in India. We saw this skyscraper like the Empire State Building, maybe not quite as big, but in Mumbai. It was a big building, and it had 5 helipads. Just in case 5 people show up in different helicopters at the same time, you might want to have 5 helipads. Are you kidding me? And it was for one family. They were living in this skyscraper. It was for one family. Meanwhile, they have thousands of people living in squalor with one toilet for 1,000 people.
Yeah.
That just blew me away. It's just, this is an inequality. It's inexcusable that we allow people to get away with this.
Yeah. A lot of problems in a lot of places.
Yeah.
Although we have our own fair share of problems here.
We do. But talking about rivers in Maine, I heard that Sebago Lake is the main water supply for the town of Portland.
Yes.
Yeah, it is.
And Sebago Lake is so clean that they don't even have to purify the water in Portland. It is that clean. Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
Well,
I do
check
know
it out,
that
because this
I
is what
do
I
know
hear.
that the is it Jordan Pond and Mount Desert Island, we're not allowed to
Yes.
swim in there because that is the water source for the folks there.
Yeah.
Whereas Sebago, you can pee and you can probably
know,
swim
I
and
know.
pee in
It's gonna
it. So
end
now
up
that
in
you're saying
Portland.
they don't purify it, I'm a little like, huh.
Yeah.
You gotta boil your water.
Yeah. I have to tell you that Jordan Pond is one of my favorite places on Mount Desert Island.
Oh,
And
yeah?
I took my wife there for the first, she'd never been there. I took her last September. We went there, and it was a beautiful day, and it was just
Yeah.
great to sit outside and have the popovers at the restaurant And
Oh
then
my God.
what a place to have them as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That water is so clean.
I know.
I think that's
Like,
the second cleanest lake in the entire country or the entire
Wow.
world, maybe next
That's
to Lake
great.
Baikal or something.
how do you determine how clean it?
I'm sure they test it. I think it's right on the sign. I was reading the sign last time we were there or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like I would, or like a lake that feeds
Mhm.
like people, or because I would imagine a lake up higher would be much cleaner.
Yeah. Well, the elevation, I don't know with Jordan Pond, it's pretty high. I mean, it's not like,
Right.
20,000 feet or anything, but
Right. But it depends on how many tourists they let in, whether they let boats on the lake or not.
yeah.
I used to live, my wife and I lived in Florida for a while, very close to the intercoastal waterway.
Hmm.
Our windows would get black
Hmm.
Mm,
on the
yeah.
engines of the power boats going up and down the waterway.
Yeah.
Hmm.
No catalytic converters, no pollution control whatsoever on those
Yeah.
pleasure boats.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
My mom lives in Fort Lauderdale and she lives in Harbordale, which, anyway, there's no boats there, but it's like her window faces the street and it
Hmm.
is disgusting because it's so hot that she can't close the windows. And so it's just black all like on her
Yeah.
floors and everything. Not like pure black, but you have
That's
to
right.
constantly
It's
clean
it's
just
soot.
yeah.
It's soot. It's carbon. It's in the atmosphere.
Yeah.
And when we moved back to New Hampshire, it's so much cleaner. We don't have to
Yeah.
worry about that. But we'd have to clean the house
Yeah.
every 3 weeks. And everything got black. Your Swiffers would be black.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dylan Swiffers.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Never talk to me about the Swiffers. He
Okay.
doesn't use if he cleans in front of me, he does not use the Swiffers. So anyways, trying to and you know what I do is if he uses them, I like pick it out of the trash and I like clean it and then I put it back in the box.
He thinks it's a new one. Pretty
Good for
clever.
you. Good for you.
Anyways, I'm sure he's like, oh, so that's what that was.
That's a suspicious looking Swiffer.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, I think this is a conversation that should continue to happen in any capacity. So I appreciate your expertise, especially the industry side of it. It's very much valued here.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
I
thanks for
always
coming
enjoy
on.
this. So we'll do this again. If you can think of another topic,
Absolutely.
do another
Yeah.
topic.
Yeah, I'll have to. Where can I find your book?
Oh, on Amazon. Just
I don't
look
buy from Amazon, Keith, anymore.
Okay.
But I'll do it for this.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
I wish you could, but the problem is that they're not available in most bookstores.
Uh,
But maybe if people went in and asked for, don't you have any Keith Launchbury books? It's like there'll be some
That's so funny.
demand.
yeah, Bernie, why don't you ask Gary if he,
Well, he can order it. He got that Presumpscot River book in like 2 days or something. River
yeah,
Voices.
but that's published by a local publisher.
Oh,
I
that's
think.
right. That wasn't
Yeah.
self-published. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Keith.
My pleasure.
I feel this is a topic that I think we can always learn more about, and I feel like we should keep talking about it. This was a continuation of our conversation with Keith Launchbury. You can learn more at our Twitter, where I will tweet more about him and some links to the previous shows that we have done as well with him. You've been listening to Scientifically Speaking here on WMPG with myself, Bernie, and Keith from your favorite nerds. Mask up, and we wish you healthy bodies and clean air. And yay!
Yay. Was that okay?
Yes,
Yeah.
that was great. Thanks, Keith.
My pleasure.
I think you're free to go. Yeah.
Okay. Take
All
care.
right.
Good evening.
See ya.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye now.